We're currently making our way south on the Intercoastal Waterway, which is a 3,000-mile-long route that runs along the east coast of the United States. So far, we've gotten to experience some incredible anchorages and have really been enjoying the different towns and beaches we've been stopping at along our trip. It's been a relatively uneventful ride so far, except for that time where we ran out of gas. But let's just say we learned our lesson and will not be making that mistake again. Since then, we've been back on course, and our 1988 Morgantown Island is headed back towards the waters where she was built for, the Bahamas. We're getting closer to our destination, and at this point, nothing is going to slow us down. Alright, do you want to explain why we had to make a sudden stop?
Yeah, so we quickly stopped here at Butler Island. Engine RPMs were going up and down, maybe 100 RPM occasionally, so it screams fuel starvation issues. And I checked the Raycor vacuum gauge, and that guy is showing a service now status on there. So I wonder when we ran the tank low on fuel down pretty far, if we stirred up some gunk inside the tank. So, and I did just recently change the fuel filter on the Raycor, but I never changed the spin-on filter on the engine. I usually do that every other. So we're gonna go in, we're gonna change out the fuel filter in the Raycor, put a 30 micron in, and then we'll also change out the spin-on filter on the Yanmar, and get that one replaced as well, and then hopefully that solves our issue. It's hot. I don't know if I can get in here without burning myself.
It's that hot right now?
Yeah. It's a lot of fun being in here changing the fuel filters. Alright, so what we did is we first changed the Raycor. We turned the fuel shutoff all the way up there. Loosen this guy up, take this cap off. Or actually, first I drained the fuel, most of the fuel out of here. Took this cap off. Pulled the old filter out. It was pretty darn black. We changed that, put that back in, filled that guy back up with some clean fuel. Took off the filter, spun off the filter, put the new filter on after I filled it with a bunch of clean fuel. Turned the fuel valve back on up at the top, and then proceeded to loosen this bolt, and loosened it until fuel started to actually flow. We just have a gravity fuel fed system, so loosened up the bleed nut until fuel started to come out, and closed it back up. So now we're going to go, that should be full of fuel again, so there shouldn't be much air in the system anymore. We'll go ahead and fire up the engine, and fingers crossed, the issue's fixed. Let's see. Worried about that.
What happened?
A little bit of air in the system.
Oh, okay. So it just had to bleed out the air.
Yeah. So we're basically started. There's a little stall event, but now we're basically going to sit here and we're going to run the engine for a good 15 minutes at different RPMs, just to make sure all the air is out of all those ejectors.
If there's something we've learned since moving onto our boat, it's to expect the unexpected. We originally planned to make it to Charleston for the night, but after getting delayed, we decided to pull off to an anchorage outside of the small town of McClellanville. This place wasn't on our radar, but quickly became one of our favorite stops along the ICW. The next morning, we finished our trip to Charleston, where we stayed for a couple of days while we waited for a weather window to jump outside and travel down the coast to St. Mary's, Georgia, which is located on the Florida-Georgia state line. We spent the weekend exploring the historic downtown and enjoying some good Southern comfort foods. Such a little ham. And then I got these two. We've been in Charleston, South Carolina for a couple of days now. We've been staying at the Safe Harbor Marina, so we kind of splurged and treated ourselves to stay at the marina for a couple of days. It's been nice. We got to really catch up on some laundry that we haven't been able to get to for the last month. And it's made it easy to go out and explore the city. And tomorrow we're getting ready. We're gonna go offshore and do an overnight sail down to St. Mary's. This is gonna be our first time going outside the ICW since Norfolk, Virginia. So we've been really itching to kind of get out and get some good miles in. We've been really enjoying the ICW, but I think the tough thing is just it's been motoring the whole way. We're super stoked. I know we're super ready to get out there tomorrow. This trip down the coast was a beautiful one. We ended up not having the winds we were hoping for, but we were still making good progress and enjoying being out on the open waters, even with our motor running. But to be for real, this trip was far from perfect. What you didn't see on camera was our hot water alarm sounding off while we were 10 miles offshore with barely any wind to keep us moving. With no easy way out, Dylan thankfully managed to jerry-rig the engine so we could limp our way into the Port Royal Inlet, where we pulled off of the channel once inside and dropped anchor for the night.
Anyway, so we left Charleston about 7 a.m. We had north winds. We were having about a 4-foot swell out of the northeast, so it was kind of behind us, which was not too bad. Although the winds out of the north meant that we were sailing with the wind, so dead downwind, and we're not really quite set up to sail downwind. We tried to sail wing on wing and put the boom out to one side, rig a preventer, and then keep the head sail out on the other, on starboard side. But as the swell would roll us and we'd come down and up, the head sail would flog and slam, so that was not enjoyable. So anyway, so that was going good. But then at one point we ended up just saying, all right, we're just gonna have to motor sail. So we pulled the head sail in. We kept the main out to the side with the preventer rig just to help us with a little bit of stability. It was help pushing us along still at like half a knot to a knot, so it was making headway. But then we started getting the hot water alarm on our engine, so immediately shut it down. Went to go look at it, and I thought I smelled something funny. I thought it just smelled like exhaust fumes, but it was exhaust, but the raw water impeller was no longer pushing raw water through our system to cool the engine. So went through a whole list of troubleshooting there because I just replaced the impeller. So the impeller should have been good. So I popped the plate off, checked it. Everything looked good. Through my inspection, I noticed that the strainer for the engine, the strainer is actually plumbed in backwards. The out is the in and the in is the out. So normally the strainer works as the raw water should come in, go into the basket, and then the water goes through the basket and then into the engine. Well, it's actually going the opposite way. The raw water is coming in, going to the outside of the basket, and then the good clean water is coming through the basket, up and out. So like when you need to pull the strainer out, all the stuff is still in the bottom of the strainer. So we're gonna replumb that, but then also during my troubleshooting, there was this little valve. It was just a bleed valve on the side of the engine for one of the raw water cooling pipes to drain that system, and it snapped. I literally just touched it.
Yeah. What? It was
No
bronze.
force.
What did you say happened with the bronze?
Oh yeah, it was bronze. So this is what broke off. I literally just grabbed it. Went to go try to turn it. I put maybe a pound of force on it. It snapped. and it's made of bronze and maybe some steel, because I see some rust on there. But if you look on the inside, the threads, how it's pink, that's definitely bronze, and it lost, I think it loses its zinc. It leaches out of the metal, and that's what makes this real brittle. So yeah, so now we had a nice big hole in the side of the raw water cooling system. But thankfully, I found a stainless wood screw, actually. And because the threads were still inside of that part on the engine, I just jammed the screw in there into the soft bronze, and that actually sealed it up. So it's low pressure, and it didn't leak. So we were limping along. I still have no idea what caused the engine to overheat there a little bit. I don't think the engine actually overheated. I think it was just the high temp alarm went off and we immediately shut it down. So good thing there. But yeah, that was definitely not a fun experience, being 10 miles offshore and very little wind and no engine. So that kind of sucked, but we got it limping along. And then yeah, so this morning we woke up this early, about 7, and got underway again. We had the current behind us, so pushing us up to Beaufort. So we're gonna be here for Beaufort for I think about a week here at Anchor. We have some replacement parts for the engine ordered, and hopefully shipping and coming this week, fingers crossed. And I'm about to run out to Lowe's and Home Depot. Well, no, not Home Depot, Lowe's and an auto parts store. I'm gonna see if I can get an easy out tap to try to back out this broken off thread for now. And I can't find a replacement for this, so I'm hoping I can just find a plug at Lowe's. I'm assuming this is some type of MPT fitting. So I'll just put in a stainless MPT plug and call it a day.
Mm-hmm.
Here, I'll show you where this valve broke off on the raw water system. So we put in a couple towels just in case it would start dripping, but it has not dripped. But right there, you can see the stainless screw jammed in there into the threads, and it worked out pretty well. We have about 10 hours on that little jerry rig. And yeah, to add insult to injury, I think we overheated this hose, so I think we might need to replace that. There was a small drip here. I don't know if it's gone now. It might have just been residual water from messing around, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. The towel is not wet, so I think we might be good there. But yeah, here's the strainer I was talking about here. This is actually going down into the seacock and up, and this is actually supposed to be the out. This is supposed to be the filtered water. And the other side, over here, goes down into the raw water impeller down there. And that sticker was burnt. That wasn't from us. But yeah, so not sure why that stopped pumping some water, but we'll have to figure that out, or at least build some more confidence. I don't know if the seacock got jammed, or got not jammed, but plugged by something under the hole, because they did close and reopen the seacock a bunch of times. So it's possible something, maybe like a plastic bag, kind of got sucked up in there, and then through the process of closing and opening it, cleared that blockage. So not fun.
Okay, we got her all suited up, ready to go on the dinghy, which Dylan's gonna bring around to the side so we can lower her onto.
Sorry, husband. No. There you go. Come on.
Good girl.
Down. Took the bike. We went to Lowe's, and then we went to Publix. Got some cabbage. At Lowe's, we went and got easy outs to hopefully get that broken thread out, and also some brass plugs that will hopefully fit. The brass will get eaten away by salt water pretty dang quickly, but that's just temporary until I can source a bronze replacement. Most likely we'll have to have it shipped to like a West Marine somewhere, or maybe if I get lucky, find an Amazon locker. But yeah, Publix, we got some cabbage, some milk, box milk goes really good because it doesn't go bad. I like milk for my coffee. And where else did we go? Oh, we got Chipotle for lunch. It's been probably since we left Sandusky, which has been over 6 months now. So, or just about 6 months. So yeah, it's looking forward to eating that. Just waiting for my ride to get here. Speaking of my ride, taking her time coming on over here. Nah, Google Maps says it was gonna take me 20 minutes. It actually only took me 9. In case you didn't know, these are what I was referring to with easy outs. They are screw extractors. The stainless steel screw worked well as an emergency repair, but to get a more permanent fix while I get some parts sourced and ordered, I'm going to attempt to pull those threads out using the easy out screw extractors. The bronze fitting lost all of its zinc. Unfortunately, the bronze became so brittle, the easy out extractor was simply just cutting into it almost like it was a soft putty material. So unfortunately this whole elbow is going to be needing to be replaced. I have the new elbow ordered, however I can't seem to find any replacement valves and or plugs that seem to fit these threads. If anyone knows where you can get those, let me know. For a more permanent fix, I'm going to use this brass plug and I'm going to fully coat it in JB Weld, so that way none of the brass should come in contact with any of the salt water. For those of you that don't know, brass in a saltwater environment will corrode very quickly. It is less stable compared to a bronze material, but by coating it in JB Weld, we should be able to get a more semi-permanent temporary fix.
Dylan also took the time to switch the strainer over so that it was plumbed in correctly.
Now that we're here in Beaufort, South Carolina, I dug into it a little bit more, and I think what happened was I just replaced the impeller about 20 hours ago and it was working fine. And the cover had a decent groove cut into it. And I think that was worn down enough that if any air or any obstruction got into the system, it would essentially, the pump would no longer self-prime itself. So I think it got an air pocket in there, and that's what happened. So while we're here in Beaufort, I pulled the cover plate off, pulled and scraped and removed any paint that was on the other side of it, and actually flipped it around backwards to have a good mating surface while I get a replacement on order in a place that we can get it picked up. And so far that has been working well. We've been starting the engine here every couple hours, running it through heat cycles just to see what happens, but I think the issue is now resolved. So down here is the raw water impeller, and there you can see the mating surface of that cover plate and how it's worn down. There is a decent groove in it, and it was working fine for those 20 hours, but like I said, something happened, and it just wasn't self-priming. So thankfully it's symmetrical, and I was able to basically just flip it around backwards, and it seems to be working well.
After a few setbacks, a little problem solving, and maybe just a little bit of stress, we're finally back on track. The engine is running, the boat is moving, and in the next episode, we'll pick back up to our trip down to St. Mary's, Georgia. Now that all of that is out of the way, surely there's nothing stopping us from getting to the Bahamas now. Or at least that's what we'd like to think.
It was a rough passage.
Thanks for watching.